Welcome to Northwest Newsweek, and thanks for being with us. Second-degree murder charges have been laid against two men from Red Lake after the body of a third man was discovered in the community 2 weeks ago. 43-year-old John McDougall was found dead outside on October 29th. 26-year-old Andrew Ray was arrested and charged by OPP this past Tuesday, and 31-year-old Jason Kakemjic was arrested 2 days later. Both accused remain in police custody. They made their first court appearance on Friday. New charges have now been laid in connection with a double homicide in Thunder Bay earlier this summer. The violent incident occurred on July 2nd, and police arrested two people the next day in Sioux Lookout. 41-year-old Garnet Loon was charged Tuesday with first-degree murder for the death of 22-year-old Corey Lee Campbell. The other person arrested at the time of the incident, 19-year-old Kaylee Loon, has been charged with assault in relation to the attack on Campbell. The pair were previously charged with second-degree murder in the death of the other victim, 50-year-old Robert Lloyd Gray. City police say it took until now to conclude their investigation into Campbell's death. This is Garnet Loon's second arrest for homicide, as in 2007 he was charged with second-degree murder for the beating death of 18-year-old Jordy Acne Pinescum. He pleaded guilty to the lesser charge of manslaughter and was sentenced to 6 years in prison. Garnet Loon and Kaylee Loon will now be tried separately and will be back in court on November 20th. The long-serving chief of the White Sand First Nations near Armstrong is facing criminal charges following a weekend altercation. OPP were called to a home on the reserve Sunday afternoon and arrived to find 3 people had been assaulted. One was suffering serious injuries. 59-year-old Alan Gustafson was taken into custody and charged with 2 counts of assault and 1 count of assault causing bodily harm. Gustafson is scheduled to appear in court in Armstrong January 9th. Ontario's opposition leader says Premier Kathleen Wynne should have stepped in sooner to bring an end to the college faculty strike. PC leader Patrick Brown was in Thunder Bay Wednesday and met with local media at the Terry Fox Lookout. Brown says this is his 30th visit to Northern Ontario since becoming leader, and he says this part of the province has become an afterthought to the Wynne government. He's also blaming the Premier for her role in the college strike, which is now in its 4th week. A forced vote on the college's final offer is scheduled to begin on Tuesday. Brown says Wynne didn't listen when he told her to force the two sides back to the table, and that was during the first week of the strike.
Kathleen Wynne's response was, oh, we can't get involved, I can't insert myself, this is the collective bargaining process, it wouldn't be appropriate for the Premier of Ontario. Fast forward 3 weeks later, and I asked again, and I said, when are you going to tell both sides to get back to the table? And finally she said, okay, I want both sides to get back to the table, but we lost 3 weeks. And frankly, I would have expected some leadership from the Premier. I don't think her hands-off approach hasn't worked. She thought it was going to settle on its own. It hasn't.
Brown also met with a Scriber man who organized a highway protest last year over skyrocketing property assessments on Walker Lake. Keith Scott says after 18 months of lobbying, he finally received a copy of a letter this week from MPP Michael Gravel, who recommends that MPAC and the finance minister address the situation. Brown says he'll look into it as well to see how he can help. The pilot of a small aircraft was able to escape serious injury when he was forced to make an emergency landing Monday east of Marathon. The Cessna 150L was en route from Earlton to Marathon when the aircraft ran low on fuel. The plane came down in a heavily wooded area near Rouse Lake, about 5 kilometers west of Highway 17. The pilot was able to summon help with his cell phone. Several emergency services were called into action to help locate the crash site and rescue the 32-year-old man. He was taken to hospital in Marathon and treated for minor injuries. A pair of convictions have led to a hefty fine for the new gold mine near Emo. They stem from a failure to comply with conditions of environmental compliance approval. This week, New Gold was convicted and fined $150,000 plus victim surcharges after the Ministry of Environment found the company had exceeded the daily allowable limit of unionized ammonia discharge in its sewer system. The incidents took place between July and August of 2016 during the construction of the mining operation. Samples of pre-discharge were taken last July, and 4 days later, a lab testing the samples indicated a problem with concentration levels of the ammonia. But for several days after that, New Gold continuously discharged the sump, releasing approximately 19 million liters of effluent. The company also failed to orally notify the MOE until a week after it received the lab results. New Gold has been given 3 months to pay the fine and victim surcharge, which totals $187,000. The next provincial election is scheduled for June 7th next year, and a big name will be running for the Progressive Conservatives in a new, smaller Kenora Rainy River riding. Former federal Conservative cabinet minister Greg Rickford is slated to be uncontested at a nomination meeting November 18th in Dryden. He previously served as MP for Kenora between 2008 and 2015. Rickford would be running against current NDP member Sarah Campbell, who has served since 2011 and has yet to be named Liberal candidate. A 45-year-old man from Red Deer is facing a series of charges after being stopped by the OPP in Zeeland Township, east of Dryden. On November 5th, police received several complaints about a vehicle weaving in and out of traffic. Police initiated a stop and, as a result, have charged the male driver with possession of property obtained by crime, possession of methamphetamine, driving while disqualified, refusal to provide a sample of possession of a firearm or ammunition contrary to a prohibition order. He appeared in a Sioux Lookout bail court on Monday. There's some progress to report this week on the Nuclear Waste Management Organization's quest to store Canada's used nuclear fuel. Several potential sites in the Northwest have already been identified, including Manitowocz, Hornepayne, and Ignace. On Wednesday, the NWMO announced that crews have begun drilling boreholes at a site 35 kilometers west of Ignace. The core samples gathered will be used by the agency to understand the geology at or near potential repository sites. The drilling is expected to take 3 months, followed by the testing of the samples, after which engineering, environmental, and safety specialists will require about a year to review the findings. The preferred site must have a suitable rock formation, which these tests will help determine. The agency says it must also have a willing host community. The NWMO plans to have a final site selected by 2023. Nipigon Bay has been on the radar of environmentalists for decades. For years, projects have been initiated to begin remediation of the area. However, one of the largest barriers to remove the bay from the list of areas of concern is the sewage treatment plant in Red Rock. And as Adam Riley reports, the municipality is trying to assist as best it can, but needs capital for an upgrade to the facility from other levels of government.
When residents of Red Rock flush their toilets, their waste ends up here at the community sewage treatment plant, a 50-year-old facility where the solids are removed, and after a quick treatment of chlorine, the water is released directly into Lake Superior. This is called primary treatment, and this is the last remaining facility along the North Shore that still does it, according to Mayor Gary Nelson. The other communities in the area have already upgraded to a more thorough secondary treatment system. He says that's something his community has been trying to do for some time.
About 8 years ago, I think it was federal and provincial government gave us $9 million for this, put a new plant in here. But it's taken so long with the study and drawing up the drawings and all for it that now it's gone up to over $18 million.
Nelson says the facility has already begun to show its age, with pressure cracks in the main digester where the solid matter is kept and parts of the facility being kept together with whatever quick fixes they can make. He adds time is running out on the building and the municipality cannot afford the additional $9 million to cover the cost for a new plant.
The money we got from the government to begin with, the $9 million, at that time was enough money to build this building. But with the costs and everything that's gone up, it's doubled in price. So hopefully, like I say, we met with the Minister of Infrastructure in Toronto a couple of weeks ago, and MPP Patty Harju, and hopefully they're going to be able to help us out.
Once a new secondary treatment facility is online and connected in with Red Rock's water infrastructure, Nelson says the effluent discharge from the facility would be virtually pollution-free, thus improving the water quality in the Nipigon Bay area. Adam Riley, TBT News.
The Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry is once again appealing to the public for information regarding another abandoned moose in the Northwest. On November 4th, a conservation officer discovered an abandoned cow moose near LeGros Road, east of Sioux Lookout. From the initial investigation, the officer determined the moose had been shot and left to spoil without any attempt to recover it. This marks the 6th incident in the last 3 months where a moose has been shot and abandoned. Earlier this year, a moose with some of its body parts removed was discovered near Sioux Lookout in the Ear Falls area. 2 other moose were located with similar mutilations, and late last month, 2 bull moose near Manitowocz were found shot and left to spoil within 50 meters of each other. Anyone with information is asked to contact the MNRF. With Remembrance Day this weekend, many vets find themselves reminiscing about their service. For 93-year-old Navy veteran and former Ignace resident Peter Medwick, it brings back memories of his time aboard the HMS Sheffield, a British cruiser that helped sink a German battleship. Colton Prale has a story.
I think enough of when I around Remembrance Day from now on until after December or January, I'd say. December the 26th sticks in my mind. I don't think I'll ever forget it.
December 26, 1943. It's the date of the Battle of North Cape, when the German battleship Scharnhorst attacked a British convoy sailing past Norway to Russia.
Well, I didn't know too much about the Scharnhorst, but the only thing I knew, she was faster than we are. I had longer range, and that was my concern.
The Scharnhorst had quite the resume. It had sank a British cruiser as well as an aircraft carrier and its escorts. Medwick's cruiser was tasked with escorting the convoy the battleship planned to attack. In total, there were 3 skirmishes.
But in all these battles, the sky was just lit up like Christmas trees. And on the horizon, I could see the silhouettes of the different ships.
The Scharnhorst managed to hit one of the other cruisers in the convoy, killing their gun's crew. Although it didn't land a shot on Medwick's ship, shrapnel rained from the sky.
And my biggest fear, I always thought, what am I going to do if I have to hit that water?
The battles began in the morning and continued well into the evening when eventually, with the help of the HMS Duke of York, the Scharnhorst was sank.
I think I've got a list of about 36 survivors they picked up, but there was a lot of other fellas in the water crying for help. That's what I was told. Right. And but then all of a sudden we started to get the ping that they were picking up submarines, and then that's when pulled up and took off.
Over 1,900 Germans died in the battle. For Medwick, it's just one of many stories that he'll be thinking of when he takes in this year's Remembrance Day ceremonies at the Gardens. Colton Prale, TBT News.
Coming up after the break, Kenora is the second largest city in northwestern Ontario, but it has the smallest airport. Well, things are about to change. During the summer months, it becomes one of the busiest hubs in northwestern Ontario. But Kenora's airport is one of the least advanced in the region, with the central terminal function split between 3 different buildings. However, it's all about to change. Adam Riley has the story.
Kenora's airport is going to look a little bit different in 2018. The city, along with the federal and provincial governments, are investing $6 million into a new terminal building. The airport and its respective operations are set up in 3 separate buildings. Kenora Mayor Dave Canfield says currently the facilities they have are just too small and too old to be useful.
You know, we're the second largest city in northwestern Ontario, and we got the smallest airport terminal, so it was time that we got it up to snuff. And this new terminal is very practical. We're not overbuilding it. We're building it for the size we need.
Canfield says they have several flights a day right now from Bearskin Airlines and receive hundreds of private planes from both Canada and the United States during the summer months. He adds that prior to 9/11, they had a strong presence in the Northwest as an international port of entry. He says with the upgrades, that could be an option once again.
Even to bring in, we used to have the service to Minneapolis. To bring anything like that back in, we can't do it with the facilities we have here, and the whole aviation industry has changed. So this new terminal is going to be great for Kenora. I mean, to give them opportunities, and the other opportunities is to even other carriers.
Canfield says a bulk of the groundwork has already been completed, including the underground infrastructure and the foundation. He expects the walls and roof to be erected in time before winter, where the interior work will take place, and hopes the facility will be open for the summer. Adam Riley, TBT News.
5 schools and 2 community organizations spread across the Northwest have become the latest beneficiaries of the T-Bay Tell for Good campaign. $5,000 awards were handed to the Stratton Best Start Hub for its Kids Outdoor Creativity Program and to Hospice Northwest for an initiative called Talking to Kids About Death. Additionally, $1,250 awards were given to Open Roads, Sturgeon Creek, Crestview, and New Prospect schools, as well as Superior Collegiate. T-Bay Tell provides the funding in support of programs that help build stronger and healthier communities in northern communities. Students at Superior Collegiate got an inside look at the life of an international model this week, with one with local roots. Jade Willoughby is originally from White Sand First Nation, and she stopped by the school for a motivational presentation. In addition to her speech, Willoughby took some time to share some of her modeling expertise with some of the students. She moved to Thunder Bay as a child before being diagnosed with a rare kidney disease that caused severe swelling and compromised her immune system. However, the disease went into remission when she turned 16. Willoughby is now based in New York as a fashion model, a dream of hers since she was a young girl. But she says there's still issues she has to overcome and wants students to believe that they can do the same.
There's still these struggles that happen behind the scenes, where I still deal with anxiety, I deal with confidence issues, I deal with loneliness, and I deal with other things that everyone else deals with, negativity, discrimination, racism, and sometimes just mean people. But it's just a way for me to share my story and to let people know that no matter what, the minute you think that you want something and you can do it, it's already done, you know what I mean? And just to help people have that positive mindset.
Coming up next, an initiative similar to a pilot project currently running at arenas in Thunder Bay, providing healthy alternatives for athletes. We'll have more on that after the break. It's an initiative similar to a pilot project currently running at arenas in Thunder Bay. A new menu has been created for patrons of the Schreiber area, aimed at providing healthy eating alternatives to those visiting or playing at the facility. Adam Riley has more.
When people attend an event at the arena in Schreiber, they often get hungry, and the concession stand is the place to beat those cravings. However, this year, burgers and fries may no longer be one of the more popular items on the menu. Recreation programmer Evan Cole says they have expanded the options for arena patrons as part of a new initiative.
We're keeping the same menu, but we're introducing a couple new healthy alternatives like soups. We have bagels, we have whole wheat grilled cheese, we have bags of grapes. So we're offering just a whole other sort of food here at the concession.
Cole says the changes don't stop at just the concession stand. A new vending machine has been introduced that offers a different selection of beverages.
We got rid of our pop machine and we introduced a water bar, which is free water on demand. When anyone wants it, they can come fill up their water. And our new vending machine is strictly, we have juice, water, we have milk and Gatorade. So no more pop, just the healthy alternatives in the vending machine.
Many users we spoke to at the complex are supportive of the changes and the new options available.
I like it because if you're at a hockey tournament and you come, you don't always have to eat like fast food. You can always eat like a healthy snack.
Being a parent of two children that are at the arena all the time, it's nice to have other choices rather than French fries and cheeseburgers, although we like your French fries and cheeseburgers, but it's nice to be able to say, hey, can I have some grapes, or, you know, even the soup, that's a great idea.
Obviously, there's healthier options, which is great. And my background's phys ed, so it's in health and fitness and stuff, so it's great to see this happening here.
Sometimes you can have like kind of food that has a lot of like it's not very good for you, but then it's good to have a good, like a healthy thing. So it's good that they got the new stuff here.
Mayor Mark Figliamini says council supported the initiative when they were first approached. He says they understand the need for healthier choices and wanted to gauge reactions before doing a major overhaul to the menu.
Like anything, we wanted to start small, right? So we brought in some small choices, small changes, and we'll see where it goes. I mean, again, once the arena starts to get busy during the season here, where you've got hockey tournaments and a lot of people in the arena, say for a couple of days, spending the weekend in Schreiber, we'll see where it goes.
The concession's first big test of its expanded menu will take place this weekend during the community's first major hockey tournament of the 2017-2018 season. Figliamini hopes that many of the guests will be able to provide some feedback as to how they can improve upon the menu selection. Adam Riley, TBT News.
It goes by many names: the Abominable, Snowman, Yeti, Bigfoot, and most commonly Sasquatch. While it's an urban legend usually set in the Pacific Northwest, one filmmaker in Red Rock set out to make a documentary about sightseeings of the creature along the North Shore. Since its release earlier this year, the response online has been beyond what was expected. Ryan Benazzo has the story.
For years, Dee McCauley has been fascinated by the paranormal. So much so that he's been making movies on the topic for the last 5 years. One of his most recent projects, which has been picking up traction online, touches on an urban legend, but in a new location.
One of my friends is like, hey, what do you think about doing a documentary on Sasquatch? And I was like, yeah, that's a really good idea right now.
Most of the stories about Bigfoot or Sasquatch come from Florida or the Pacific Northwest. But in his latest feature, McCauley specifically wanted to put a focus on Sasquatch incidents along the North Shore.
There was a lot of stories about seeing tracks and stuff like that, and there was stories about finding structures in the woods. There was a lot of stories that came through, but nobody wanted to actually go on the dock. So I found about 5 people that actually did.
McCauley enlisted his friend Kyle Turner to help film the documentary. After spending almost 4 months gathering interviews and shooting drone footage, McCauley released his film to the public.
I put it on YouTube and hoped it would blow up on there, and it actually did. I was quite surprised as an independent filmmaker. I am used to 10 views to maybe 1,000 views, but this thing just, it went viral.
Sasquatch on Lake Superior has been viewed about 150,000 times since it was released at the beginning of August, and McCauley continues to document the paranormal. He's currently working on a film chronicling the ghostly encounters at the Mackenzie Inn. Ryan Benazzo, TBT News.
That'll do it for this edition of Northwest News Week. Thanks for joining and have a great week.